thanks for the opportunity. What a great turnout. It's fantastic to have the opportunity to do these things. This is the second VTI workshop I've spoken at. I spoke the last one for about 5 minutes, and I must have done all right because they've given me 45 minutes today. And whether we need that much, but I'd really like some interaction around this. I'm Hamish Mitchell from Speciality Trees. There we go. I'm the owner and managing director. I've been in the industry for about 30 years and under various guises. So I started out in a retail nursery years and years ago, and then did my training at night. Is that cutting in and out? And I did my training at night, and then I came down here, worked with Flemish for a couple of years, which was fantastic, and then I left there and worked for various other horticultural organisations, and ultimately ended up at Speciality Trees about 7 years ago. I was also the Horticulture at Parliament House in Canberra when it was first taken over when it was first opened, and that gave me that's really what started my passion on trees. We needed to develop that landscape right from scratch, and the guys that planted the trees, whilst they did the best job they could, both the quality of those trees that were planted and the way that they were planted and the way that it was designed, there are all problems with that. So for the next 10 years or so, we were trying to sort that out. So it makes it quite challenging. All right, I'm past president of Landscape Victoria, which was a very exciting time as well, and I'm a current member of the Nursery Garden Industry Australia Board. So, and one of my passions is really about the crossing of all the groups that are what I used to call horticulturalists. So we're all horticulturalists, whether you're an arborist or working in the council or in a nursery or a landscaper, we're all horticulturalists. And what I would like to see is that the green industry, as we've coined the phrase, or the live green industry actually starts working together much more. And that's why these sorts of events are really exciting, I think. I'm also the current chair of the Environment and Technical Committee for the NGIA. Today's presentation, what I want to talk a little bit about is the process of, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on a lot of this stuff. If you want more detail, come and see me or see one of the other nurserymen in the room. There's a few of us here. It's about having a general understanding of what the process is, what tools are out there to give you a hand to select good trees and get involved in that process. What's required for better performance, what to look for in a good tree, and the value of the trees. That's my passionate point, is the value of trees. Not only to the value from if you're buying trees from me or from the nursery industry, but actually what the value of the tree is in the landscape post planting and in 20 years' time, when you measure that value. I think it's really important that we start thinking about the value of trees. What's the value of a 20-year-old tree? What's the value of a 100-year-old tree? And how can we get our trees to that sort of stage? It's very hard to do that from a dollar point of view, which is what our masters want us to look at. It's really about the value of that from a health and well-being perspective that I would argue that we need to start talking about. Growing process. Quality inputs equals quality outputs. The better the inputs, it's the same if you're buying used parts for your car. If they're used, then you don't know what you're going to get. If they're new, you know what you're on about, and buying quality stuff. And what are the inputs? We put a lot of well-trained staff into our processes. We've got this is Charlotte. She's just finished up with us actually. She did an apprenticeship with us and did a fantastic job. She was with us for 3 years, but. We spend a lot of time, a lot of money on training in our organisation so that we're actually putting out a better product all the time. We put a lot of effort into making our people accountable for the job that they're doing and for what's happening in that space. They're actually got the authority to toss stuff out, and it's a big thing from my perspective to allow a third-year apprentice to throw stock out because it's not good enough. But we like to think it happens. Perhaps not as much as it should, or more than I'd like, but it should happen. We want passionate people, experts in their own area. Growing process, quality junior material and genetics. Two different things. Junior material, We buy from quality nurseries. The root systems in those, you can see the tops, but you can't see the root systems. If you don't know what's happened in that root system, then you don't know the value of that tree. It may be absolutely valueless. And genetics is the other really passionate point about what's happening is, if you look at what's happening around Victoria, around Australia at the moment, there needs to be a lot more selection of trees that are going in. You can buy Leucoxylon rosé from any nursery, but where is that Leucoxylon rosé? What's the provenance of that Leucoxylon rosé? Where has that come from? What tree has that come from? Has that just been commercially collected, or is it from a reasonable tree? John Fitzgibbon and Metropolitan Trees did a lot of work in this over the last few years. Flemings have done a lot of work in this over the last 10 or 15 years. So there's a lot of, and we've been doing quite a lot of work in this as well. So there's a lot of value in the genetics of the trees and what's happening and where that is actually coming from. Well worth looking at. So material selection, local knowledge. Will a tree perform in your area, and where's it been grown is a really important part. Accredited supply. There are a number of accredited nurseries and suppliers of product around. There's an accreditation, believe it or not, there's an accreditation for potting media suppliers. There's an accreditation for nurseries. There's a number of different accreditations for nurseries. And I'll talk a bit more about those in a minute under the NGIA program. Growing processes, quality nutrition programs. You can't see what happens. It's a really important part of having quality people in your nursery doing quality work is actually knowing what's happening in those trees. If you can't see it, does it really happen? If you're not aware of it, does it really happen? And it does. Nutrition is really, really important. Species-specific nutrition programs. So actually getting down to level of obviously the difference between ornamental and native trees is significant, but there's a significant difference between what we feed our native trees as well within that zone. Is it documented? So in our business, we actually document the process as far as what nutrition each of our trees gets. Each of our trees is actually an individual in our system. It can get a bit arduous, but we've got a barcode on all our trees, and that barcode is that tree, not that batch. It's actually that tree. So we can actually track that back through our system, and if there's an issue with that, we can actually go back and see where that happened. I had a group of Citradoras that there was a problem with, and we could actually track that back. We could actually see where they came from, when they were planted, the whole deal, all the way back, and we replaced those trees. I suspect it was more of a planting issue than a tree. There were about 200 in that batch, and there were only 9 of those trees that were faulty, or turned out to be faulty. So I think it was a planting issue. Quality biosecurity management. What does that mean? Water treatment systems, prevents disease. Biosecurity is a huge issue for us all. If we're not managing particularly the nurseries, if we're not managing our weed problems, if we're not managing our disease problems, we're just spreading them around. So we need to make sure, that's cutting it out on me, we need to make sure that those things are managed properly and effectively. Integrated pest management. We practice a thing called integrated pest management. What that means is that we use as few chemicals as possible to actually achieve the end result. We've cut our chemical use. There's only 2 pests in our nursery that we actually treat now. So we don't treat via chemical use any aphids or any of the common scale or any of those things now. It's totally done naturally within our organisation, and across our business. So what does that mean for our customer? It means that it actually it may come with a few scale on it, but it'll actually come with the solution to that as well. And that's really important. If you're planting a tree that's been hammered by chemicals all the way through, and you plant it out in the landscape, the first thing that comes onto it is going to cause a problem. Whereas if you've got some immunity in that, it makes a big difference. Okay, so that having the tree ready for planting into the landscape is essential. It can't be sterile. It has to have a whole process around it. The other thing we're doing now is inoculation. So we've been using trichodermas and mycorrhiza on our trees for the last 3 or 4 years, and that's making a big difference to how we see problems being solved. So it actually comes with a whole ecology around what we're doing. And I think that that's really the way of the future, where we actually treat our water, so we're actually sterilising our water on the way through. So it comes out of the dam, sterilised through chlorine, injected with chlorine. We then re-inoculate the soil mixes with trichodermas and mycorrhiza, and so we're actually bringing the good ones back in. The more good ones we've got, the less bad ones we've got. Do your homework. Buy quality from a reputable nursery. The way to find that out is to actually go and visit the nursery, and you'll know as soon as you walk in the gate whether that's going to be for you or not. Whether they're organised and those sorts of things is really important. Know a suite of nurseries, each may specialise, and that's really important because we can't all do it all. If you've got a relationship with a number of nurseries, often the nurseries have got relationships as well, and so they can assist in where to get product and even assist you to do that. But the actual process of getting stock in and having enough stock to suit everybody's needs, it's not going to be one business that does that. It's a whole suite of businesses that can do that for you. Inspect the nursery and their product. It's really important, and don't be frightened about pulling it out and having a look at the roots. And I don't think anybody is really offended by that. If they are, then that's probably an indication of what's going on. There's no need to bash trees around, and there's no need to be disrespectful about it either. But if you want to pull a tree out of a pot and have a look at it, by all means ask and go ahead and do it, because that's what it's about. The product that you're buying, we're hoping, or I hope, it's going to last for at least 50 years in the landscape. At the moment, the average age of a tree in Melbourne streets and things, and there's a lot being planted too, so it brings it down, is under 20 years. And I think that's a bit of a shame. I think what we need to be doing is aiming for trees that are lasting. You know, if we can increase it's going to be difficult for the next 20 years to actually do that, because we want to plant a huge number of trees in the next 20 or 30 years. But if we can get the average age up to 30 or 50 years, I think is really a good thing to do. Be confident and trust their advice. If you've got a good relationship with fellow horticulturists, and these ones are nurserymen, and your arborists or council workers or whoever it is, actually talk and have a discussion around it and trust the conversation, because that honesty in that conversation is really important. Be confident and trust their advice. There are tools to use. NIASA, Best Practice Guidelines. NIASA is Nursery Industry Accreditation Scheme Australia. That's why they call it NIASA. It is a bit of a mouthful, and it's been around for about since about nearly 20 years, I think, 15 years. Excuse me. About 15 years. There are a number of nurseries that are NIASA accredited. It's a program that is pushed Australia-wide and is something that you can look for. That's the symbol there. Is that a guarantee of good trees? Absolutely not. What it is a best practice process within the nursery industry. Okay, so it talks about gravelled areas, it talks about the infrastructure, it talks about the business model, that sort of thing. It doesn't talk about quality of trees. If people are NIASA accredited, there's a fair chance that they concentrate, their heart's in the right place, they're concentrating on the right thing. Cohort. That's this one, Cohort Certification. What that is really dealing with the environment. It's an environmental accreditation. So we, Speciality Trees accredited, for Cohort, and at the moment we've got water running off, we're actually testing that water for nutrient load and that sort of stuff. So what we're doing is taking seriously what we're doing and the footprint that we've got on our environment. We look at making sure that we keep our carbon load down as low as possible. All the feel-good things at the moment. So we're trying not to burn rubbish. We chip it. It's all these things. Just trying to make a bit of a difference in what we're doing and how we're doing it. Okay, we've reduced our chemical requirement. So we just keep on moving in that direction. So we're more and more environmentally friendly. And really, that's where that it's that biosecurity, environmentally friendly, biosecurity, environmentally friendly, and you bring the two together and make it click. Biosecure HACCP. We're not Biosecure HACCP yet, and Biosecure HACCP is really about risk management. It's about recording what's happened. We do an enormous amount of recording in our business, and we're actually not at that scale. Biosecure HACCP was really brought in to facilitate the transport of plants between states and between different areas. And so if you're Biosecure HACCP, then you can, for instance, there are a couple of nurseries in Victoria that are Biosecure HACCP, so they can send into Queensland. And there are guys in Queensland that are coming back this way. This is only very new. It's only probably been around about 18 months or so. And I think there's only 2 or 3 nurseries in Victoria that are actually accredited at the moment. There's a lot more elsewhere. It hasn't been a big issue in Victoria, but it's good to know that these sorts of things are there. NatSpec. Most people know about NatSpec. NatSpec was a specification for tree production and the buying of trees that was put out in the 80s by a fellow called Ross Clark, and we've all got problems with it. From a grower's perspective, it's very difficult, and the size index in it just doesn't work, particularly in Victoria. It was designed by a forester in New South Wales that grows big trees, and it really suits his program very well, but it doesn't really suit what we're doing. It has some very good, it's a great philosophy, but that's where it just about ends. Talks about root shoot ratios and all this sort of stuff, which I'll talk about in a sec as well. National Tree Standard is just about there. We've been working on this. This was started in the late 80s as a response to Ross Clark's NatSpec, and it's still going. We're not across the line yet, and we're very close. The nursery industry has agreed that it's where it needs to be. There's a group similar to this in New South Wales that has some issues with the current model. So we're still in negotiation around that. AS 2303, tree stock for landscape use, should be put into place in the next 12 months. And it's quite a, it was quite a significant document, but it's been pared down and pared down and pared down. So, but it is a guide and it's a start, and I think it's a really important start. It covers tree quality above and below ground. So we talk about the way the roots should be managed and where they should be pointing, that sort of thing. Removes inconsistency with previous guidelines, and that's a clear reference to NatSpec. The approach of these things is that one size fits all, and it just doesn't work. There is no way in the world that a Eucalyptus cassia is ever going to fit into any guideline that we've got. It just doesn't. It's just not going to work. Whereas, and if you compare a Citriodora with a Brachychiton, you've got a similar problem. Okay, so there's significant differences around the way trees grow and how they manage and the root systems and everything else. So we need to be aware of that and know that these things are out there and they're actually tools to be used, but they aren't the be-all and end-all. They actually need some explanation and that sort of stuff. If you're concerned about it, talk to your nurseryman about it, because it's a significant. This will become a tool to enhance product longevity. It's really about improving the quality of the trees coming through and what's happening. So it's an important thing. So under the AS 2303, there are guidelines to assist you in free of pests and diseases. Now, I've got a real problem. Underneath this program, there's a should and a shall. So a should is a loose statement. So under the guidelines, it should be free of pests and diseases. Now, everybody here would think that it shouldn't have any pests and diseases on it. Under my system of IPM program, you're always going to have pests and diseases because I don't treat them. What we do is treat them naturally and manage them. Okay, so we've already got a problem. So, but that's okay. We can deal with that and we can communicate through that. Balanced crown, pretty basic sort of a comment. Uniform growth, easy. Stem taper, it's pretty easy. Top to the bottom. Peter Lawton, who's a bit of a legend in our part of the industry, talks about a 1% stem taper from top to bottom, and that makes perfect sense to me. So, and stem taper really means that the section above is narrower than the section below. That's it. So it actually gets wider as it goes down. Apical dominance, pretty much a no-brainer if you're buying trees. Even we grow all our trees with an apical dominant point. We prune them that way. Formative pruning, pretty basic stuff. If it hasn't been formatively pruned, is that an issue or not? And that's up to you guys to decide that. Root shoot ratio, that's around the size of the tree to the size of the container. Root direction is out or down. That's pretty basic stuff. And root pruning, whether that's actually happened or not. So root pruning is a really important part. Very important part of NatSpec as well, going back into that other one. So does anybody, I'll just go back to there. Has anybody got any questions about AS 2303? I'll get it one day. Is everybody aware of it? All I'm getting is blank looks. I know a few people are aware of it, but not so much out in the VTIO world yet. Anyway, it's there and it's coming, so it'll be good to get into it. Purchasing trees. These are advice things, I suppose. Order as soon as possible. As soon as you know what you want, start looking for them. It makes our job a lot easier because we can actually work towards the quality that you want. One of our biggest things as a nurseryman is actually timing. Don't wait until you've got the hole dug, because if you wait that long, you may never get the product. It just may not happen. This year there's a shortage of stock, and I'm sure there will be again next year. So if those people that are organised and have their stock lists out there 18 months beforehand, 12 months beforehand, 6 months beforehand, are going to do a lot better than those that are trying to look for stock for tomorrow. It's just basic common sense, and we all know that it's a money thing and it's a political thing, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't worry me. If somebody knows what they want, come and talk to me about it now. We've got jobs that are going. I've got one job at the moment that we'll supply in November next year, and that's the way I'd like it. Even if we hadn't, I don't want to say that too loudly, but even if we don't have a deposit for that, we actually know that stock's committed and what that's for, and we've got something to aim at, so we can quicken it up, we can slow it down, we can repot it at leisure, we can actually manage the process much better than if the stocks. Somebody rings us and says we want to get something to AS 2303 tomorrow, and you go, I can't do that. It's not a widget. I can't turn the machine on to make that happen, as much as I'd like to. Inspect the trees you are buying. Either inspect the trees you are buying or inspect the nursery that's supplying them. Doesn't matter which. Have a relationship with that business. Understand what you are specifying. It's a big issue, understanding what you're specifying, both from a varietal point of view and from a pot size point of view. This is one of my pet hates, so I'll indulge myself in a little bit. There it is: pot size, nomenclature, and better selections. Know what's out there. Get educated about what's out there. People are more than willing to talk to you about what's going on. If you've got a project coming up in a 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, most of these things are planned 2 years in advance, go and talk to them. Go and talk to the nursery people about what's going to be available, what's coming through, what looks great, what's a better selection, all these things, because there's an enormous amount of information that is available to you that isn't necessarily available just from a book. Go and talk to them. Go and find out. Where is the product grown? It's a bit of an issue because there is quite a lot of stock comes down from up north, and if that's coming down at this time of year, that can often be a problem. So is the product, will it perform locally? We've had, I bring stock down at this time of the year as well, and we'll hold it over the winter and then and grow it out in the next season, and then for next winter it's actually acclimatised, so it works. All right, thinking about pot sizes. Currently we measure pot size. This is one of my pet hates, so you have to indulge me in this. Pot size measure. I've got 2 trees there on the left, the Waterhousia Floribunda Whisper. The one on the left is in a 52 litre container. The one on the right is in a 27 litre container. The one on the right is a 40 centimetre container. The one on the left is a 50 centimetre container. Diameter, we measure, most of our hardwall containers we measure by diameter, so 50 centimetre or 40 centimetre. Volume for grow bags and rocket pots. So you end up with a 45 litre grow bag or a 35 litre grow bag or a 100 litre, 75 litre, whatever it is, but they're normally on the outside. There's been no move to regulate the sizes or require people to put the size on the container. On our label there, I don't know whether I've got a pointer on this, those 2 stickers there, and you'll see the stock later on that I've brought over, but on that sticker is a size. Okay, so it's got a literage measurement on there. It's the only thing that we've got in our industry. If you go and buy a bottle of water, it's got a literage or a volume measurement on the outside. There's no requirement for us to do that in this industry. So know your sizes and know what you're on about. A 40 centimetre is not a 45 litre container. We're looking at changing this. I tried to get this through under the tree standard, but it hasn't. I haven't been able to do that yet. That was one of the compromises we had to make. Compare accurately and don't be fooled. A 200 millimetre pot, so 20 centimetre, the old 8 inch, can be supplied in 5 different styles, and everything from 3.1 to 5 litres. That's a 40% difference. It's a significant amount. If you're buying a 200 millimetre pot, then you're getting 40% less or greater value. Beware of interstate references. 52 litre container in New South Wales is sold as a 75 litre container. And as I say, we bring stock down from New South Wales all the time, and I'll ring them up and say I'm looking for a 50 litre, and they say, oh, you mean 45 litre? And I said, no, a 50 litre. And they say, what size is that? 50 centimetre? Oh no, that's 75 litre. And I say, no, it's not. It's 52 litre. And they say, no, it's 75 litre. If you tip the pot upside down, it says on the bottom, it says 52 litre. Same thing happens with a 40 centimetre. They'll convince you that it's a 45 litre. It's not. It's actually 27 litre. That's nearly half the size. So be aware of what you're getting. If you want a 40 centimetre, that's cool. I haven't got a problem with that. But let's have 40 centimetre. I did a quote last week for Vic Roads, and they wanted 45 litre. We quoted in 42 litre. Beg your pardon. Now I'm confused. 52 litre, and we went pretty hard, and we didn't get it, which is fine. There's no drama with that. But I'll nearly guarantee that whoever got it said that they'll self-supply it in a 40 centimetre container. So just that means what I'm trying to say is that there is some confusing stuff out there. Pretty simple to sort it out. You go out to the nursery, have a look, tip the tree over and have a look underneath, and you can see it. And hopefully one day, not too far away, we'll actually get them to put the container size on the lip. So we'll actually get it branded into it and make a big difference. 40 centimetre pot diameter is not 40 or 45 litres, but 27 litres. So it's a significantly less than what's in. And what I would encourage everybody to do is to actually start doing in both. So we've got both sizes in that bracket there. Know what you're getting. Okay, summarise. No one makes a premium tree specimen. Align yourself to suppliers with proven quality production processes and techniques. The processes is what in my part of the horticultural industry, the green industry, it's about process, and very much so in your area too. All of horticulture is about process, and then really watching what happens, and then getting better at it. Look for a professional nursery that gives you good advice and service. Don't be scared to buy a material that is more expensive. Understand why it is. It's a big difference. And compare apples with apples. So that container is a 150 litre. All right, where is cost measured? This is my other pet hate. So this is my other bit. And I think it should be measured at 5 years after planting, not at the farm gate. And I'll explain why. If you buy it at the farm gate at $50, let's say this is a 27 litre tree, and you're paying $50 for it, or you're paying $100 for it at a different nursery. It doesn't really matter. These are just things. You get 60% success there, and you only get 90% success there. All these other costs are the same. $200, $50, $25. So the total cost per tree, in this case, is in the more expensive one, it's $50 more. Okay, so it's about 15–20% more. But so we're not talking about just the tree. We're talking about the whole process. If you get a 60% success rate here, now I think there's some clever technology here, if I can do it. There you go. 60% success rate there, 100 there. The cost differences at this end, by the time you go through your 5 years of planting, the cost is $52,650 for that 100 trees. If you pay $100 and you get 90%, so it's not, and 90% I think is very achievable. I think you should be getting better than that. The cost is $41,625. So you've actually saved $11,000. That's 20%. Now, these are numbers that I haven't made up, and and the justification for it is something for the future. But my point is, if you go back 3 or 4 slides and you know where the trees are coming from, and you know what's happening, and you know, and success is about 5 years down the track, not year 1, or at the farm gate, then it makes a huge difference. And how many more trees are you going to get planted? You're going to plant 20% more trees. You've got 20% more money to deal with if you just do it that way. I'm just planting the seed, but so to speak, without trying to be too much of a pun. But it is a significant issue, I reckon. I think we should be paying more for trees and allowing that process to happen. And so you're buying good trees and plant less trees, but in the long run you'll have more success. Green industry stuff, 2020 vision. If you haven't seen 2020 vision, it is about increasing green space by 20% by 2020. It is the nursery industry pay a pot levy. So for every pot that we buy, the cost of that, there's a 5% charge put on top of that, and that goes into a bucket. And that bucket is that's the only levy that's collected within the green industry. So, and it's not a huge amount of money. 5% of the pot value isn't a significant amount. But it's about $1 million a year. So what do we do with that $1 million a year within the nursery industry? Over the last 25, 30 years, they've been spending it on research, on this, on that, on the other, so irrigation and all sorts of things that on NIASA and all those sorts of things. In the last 2 years, what they've been doing is actually putting that into a bucket, and they're looking at doing a promotional program called 2020, and that is about influencing the influencers. So in the past 12 months, what they've been doing is going out and talking to people about it and making people aware of it. So at government level and at council level and those sorts of things. And these things are starting to ramp up now. They've got websites and those sorts of things there, and a lot of us are partners of that program. I know Fleming's are, Speciality Trees is, Hume City Council is, Melbourne City Council is. So there's a whole range of people that are actually buying into this. The beauty about this is that it's a medium where we can get people to understand the message and what the value of trees is about, or the value of green space. And the value of green space is really around health and well-being. If you look at what we do and how we do it, if you look at what's happening in even in aged areas now, people are sitting watching the telly rather than going out and gardening and that sort of stuff. They're cramping up, they're not moving as much, the health cost goes up and so on. If you look at kids at the moment, they're not outside as much, you've got more juvenile diabetes, all these things. If we can get people back out moving, the green industry is a great way to do that. And it's very good for us because it means that what we're doing, the value of what we're doing is increased exponentially. So have a look at this. Lots of support research available. So if you look at depression rates, or you look at diabetes, or all these things, and you overlay those into areas that have got low levels of canopy, it's almost a hand-in-glove fit as to those problems in those areas. And this has been recognised, particularly here in the western area of Melbourne. There's Melbourne Water is doing a lot of work in this as well. So there are opportunities there to increase our value out there to our community. So how can we do things for our community? Well, we can plant more trees, make sure they survive, and get them across the thing. Have a look at 2020 Vision on the web. It's a great thing. There is lots of information in there. There are projects there that people can put up. So if there's a project in the Hume City that is increasing the volume of, and there's lots of them, mind you, if there's projects around that are increasing that green space value, then they can be put up on the website so that everybody can share the information. It's very powerful stuff. This was a analysis of tree cover in Australia, in urban Australia, which is fascinating stuff. And obviously the closer into the city you are, the less there is. In the western areas here where there wasn't many trees to start with, obviously there's a fairly low canopy rate. The Yarra Valley's got 70% canopy cover. It's all the major local government areas are in that, and it's well worth having a look at your local area and seeing what happens. What's happened is that they've taken a measurement, so they actually look at it in 2020 and see whether the vision has been achieved or not. But it's a great thing. Benchmarking Australian tree canopy. All these reports are available through the website, and if you're interested in your local area, it's fascinating stuff. Valuing trees, what is nature worth? There's some really good stuff here, and that we can all get involved in and make a difference. That's all coming out of the nursery industry pot levy, and it's really the first time that the nursery industry hasn't been nursery industry focused. They've actually got their head up and looking at the broader picture and at what's happening around and trying to support the green industry as opposed to just the nursery industry. So it's very good. Keep on doing that. All right, that's me. And I'm probably just about spot on time, so that's good. If you want to talk about any of this stuff, more